Hello, hello. Let me just set this up. Welcome to everyone listening and showing up here, checking out what what I'm about to share with you today. Feeling a bit nervous as showing up through video is still a little bit of a vulnerable thing for me to do. But I have received some ass kicks by universe because, well, it's not about me and my little me fears. It's about how I can serve best. So this is part of me stepping into the arena. And please be patient with me if I sometimes can't find the right words in English, but I still want to stay sharing that archetypal elemental wisdom with you in English, because that's also how I channel most of it. And also there's big part of my soul family who speaks English. So here I am. Thank you for everyone supporting me and showing up here. What is the intention of this video? So basically, it is to share a bit of astrological insight with you about what the heck is going on energetically these days, what you already feel probably, and maybe some of what I'm going to share with you today is supporting you on your journey right now, on the challenges that you have to face right now. And the intention is also to share whatever comes through me, because it's not something that I share from a place of this is my advice, my opinion, my anything. It really feels like it's coming from an ancient or actually timeless place of remembrance, I would say. And that's how I would actually like to start, because there's a lot of scorpionic energy in the space at the moment, and we have Scorpio season. The sun sits in Scorpio, also Mars and Mercury sit in Scorpio right now. So we are in midst of a very transformational time, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, where there's also, in addition to the energetics of it all, we see it in nature, where exactly the same process happens of nature slowly entering the season of late autumn and winter, where she draws back her energy back into the ground, and where we enter like the death quality of nature, of the seasons, and it's being reflected in the female cycle. It's being reflected in in nature, within ourselves, and also in the zodiac and in the annual wheel. So it's all connected, and this is what astrology has taught me the most, actually, and I've been doing this for over 10 years now, is that astrology and archetypes and mythology and gods and goddesses and all of that, these are actually these are just, well, the humankind, and thank you, brother, for this beauty, humankind. My brother, Simon Paul, if you're watching this, thank you for this word. With us humans being kind in our essence, the humankind has at some point in time started to project their own inner facets, their own inner different qualities, divine qualities, onto archetypes, gods, goddesses, as somehow a higher divine power that they are believing in, that they are that they can seek guidance in, that they receive protection from. But actually, astrology is not it's not something that is influencing us as if it would be separate from us. Astrology is basically a way of remembrance that what is happening within is happening without, and what is happening in the skies is happening within all of us. We are all connected. So that's why I like to bring it back to nature, to body, to grounding, because it's all happening within and it's all connected. So I won't be using a lot of special terms, technical terms from astrology, so that we're all getting heady. I'm gonna try and do my best to bring it to essence and talk more in a way of experience within body, within being, within all of us. Yeah, so let's dive into Scorpio a little bit. Those of you who have read my posts that I shared with you, ever since the sun has entered this powerful sign, and we notice that there is quite an intense and dense energy in the space. What Scorpio is reminding us of and the intention of Scorpio is to reconnect and to remember parts of ourselves that we have forgotten, parts of ourselves that we have suppressed, qualities in ourselves that we might don't want to have, but they're there. Also truths, and and that there are, of course, also these aspects, these stories that we tell ourselves, identities, personas that are not really part of ourselves, but that we identify with, that we took on as part of ourselves. So it either is about remembering, taking something as member of you, as part of you, back to yourself. For example, your sexual energy that you're maybe having a really hard time to access and that you suppress in a way, or the power, or your emotions, your anger, your grief, whatever it is that you have a certain belief around, why you should not embody that, why you should not give that space within your being, space to move from suppression to expression. That's one part of it. And then there's the part of maybe a certain image that you've created, that you want to create, how you want the world to see yourself, how you want to be seen, and how you see yourself, and how all of a sudden this does not feel aligned with you anymore, if it ever felt aligned with you. And what you thought as truth is not truth anymore, and you can feel that in your being, and something has to die. So either the resistance needs to die, or the lie needs to die. Whatever it is about death. It's about letting go, and it's about facing yourself, looking yourself into the mirror and remembering. And that is why I love Scorpio so much, because yeah, it is about shadow work, but it's also about finding beauty in dark, finding beauty in death and letting go and dying. And there are some ancient, there are some cultures that have worked with this energy, in particular Scorpio energy, as an energy of alchemy. And this is something that sits within all of us. Just be aware that when I talk about Scorpio, I talk about your own inner seer, your own inner shaman. I'm talking about that part within you that is connected to an ancient wisdom around how to transform yourself, how to transform and alchemize yourself and things. And it's like you can still hear it whispering. You're still connected to it, but you've learned to press that down, to ignore that whisper. And yeah, there's actually, and I really, really resonate with that. And I read it in a post, but I want to dive into that again here on the video as well, because I find it fascinating and super important. When we talk about Scorpio energy, we talk about transformation, and transformation happens in 3 stages, at least according to some ancient cultures that that wrote down their own experiences of transformational processes. So the first stage is the stage of the scorpion. So the actual animal scorpion, when you look at the scorpion, it has a poisonous tail. It looks quite intimidating. And you know it's poisonous, so of course you're afraid. We tend to be afraid of everything that is poisonous. And of course, there's also situations in life where it's good to have a certain I wouldn't say healthy fear, but you know, when you can feel, okay, now it's good to be aware that this could be a dangerous situation. But what I'm talking about here is that poisonous tail that is actually the initiation into death, into dying. Not death yet, dying. So when we are being stung by this poisonous tail, we have poison in our body. It's moving through our body. And you can maybe compare that to certain aspects that are being played out collectively right now when we are being stung. We are having poison in our systems. And of course, what are we doing when we have poison in our systems? We fight it because we are scared to die. We don't want to die, and we fight this death. We fight this poison in our systems. But the thing is that this, what we see as poison, has the potential to be a medicine for all of us, because it shows us our fear of death, and how that fear of death is actually fear of being alive. But I'm going to go there later on. Coming back to that first stage. So this is how we are being initiated into these transformational processes. The first step is okay, the poison is now in my system. I'm in resistance mode. Like, fucking hell, I don't want to go there. I don't want to die. I don't want to feel. I don't want to feel. I don't want to see that thing that I have shut my eyes from. I don't want to feel what I've been running away from all my life. And yeah, you're in resistance, you're fighting it, 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 you're fighting it. You're at war. And the thing with war is, or with resistance, is sooner or later there won't be any energy left within you to fight. And to live sometimes, actually. But we don't want to take it that far. There has to come sooner or later a point within the process where you're at a point of no return, where you're like, okay, I'm exhausted of fighting this. I'm exhausted of this resistance. I can't do it anymore. And that's the point of transformation. That's where that so-called poison or medicine wants to guide us to, because that's when we surrender. That's where we surrender to death, or whatever it is that we have to see, remember there, or that has to die. Yeah. So this is the first stage. It's quite a turbulent one. It's quite emotional one. It's quite a you know, can't, you know. And then you're at that point of surrender. And when you're at that point of surrender, you're also at a very peaceful point, because you have stopped fighting death, and somehow there is a stillness that is happening within the surrender. And that's when you have stopped identifying with whatever it is that needs to die. I hope I can express this well right now. Yeah, you have stopped fighting. And then the second stage is slowly emerging from that place of surrender. And that second stage is the stage of the ego. And I love that. I love how they describe it as an ego, with the image of the ego, because, and that is something that I take from this, and you might have completely different associations and you receive different insights from what I'm sharing here, and different associations. And so don't take this on as truth for yourself. But I associate freedom and liberation with the ego, and a certain kind of grace, a certain kind of wisdom and maturity. So the second stage, while you're still in that process of letting go, of dying, of you're still shedding skins in a way, and you're still in transformation. but you're not drowning in that process anymore. You're not having a sense of being consumed by it, which is happening a lot when you're in that struggling stage. It's like it's consuming all of your being. It's like it's so big. The more you resist, the more it persists, and the bigger it gets. When you let go of the resistance, there's all of a sudden more energy to actually surrender and feel what is there. And you're not consumed by it anymore. It's more of a, you're offering yourself, you're offering your body to the process. And you start also to see how things are connected. And that is also where the ego comes in. He's still in the process, he's still within the underworld, but he starts to see, it's the seer, starts to see what is actually happening. And it's that part of us that liberates oneself from the struggle, from the resistance, from whatever has to die and to be left behind, which can be stories, identifications, relationships, whatever we identify with. That's the second part. Yes. And then the third stage of this process is the phoenix. And while I feel that there's a lot of the collective still within that scorpionic stage of fighting the medicine, there are also people within the ego stage that have started to surrender and remember. And of course, still feeling it all and everything, but it is a little bit of a more peaceful, trust in the process kind of energy. And the phoenix, the third stage of this transformational scorpionic quality, brings in the fire that needs to complete the cycle of transformation, because fire finally burns everything that is not truth. Fire alchemizes, fire kills, but fire also creates. It's a spark of creation, and that's where the phoenix rises from. You can look at it a bit like also again reflected beautifully in nature through volcanoes, which are also beneath the surface, just as the underworld. It's beneath the surface, and it's that, like the core of our earth, like this lava, you know. That is the most destructive but also creative force, and we all have that inside. And once that volcano erupts, you know, it destroys, but the ashes and the soil, everything that comes from volcanic earth is the most fertile substance on the planet where things can grow from. And that's what the phoenix is made of. So the phoenix has been going through the flames of transformation, and it embodies that and brings back the spark of creation, and returns back from the underworld, rises from there back into the earth and having kingdoms, and connects us all with that. and it has remembered. The phoenix has remembered. And of course, the phoenix is still a very vulnerable being, because it, at the same time, it has recently died going through that process of transformation, but it is now like a very newly born, fragile being that is coming back into, above the surface. And that's when the sun is entering Sagittarius after Scorpio, and that's when we get to face, or we get to integrate the wisdom that we have received by moving through that process, those 3 stages that I've just shared with you. Yeah, so wow, it is very, very powerful, and it really reflects what is happening on a collective level. It reflects what is happening in nature. It reflects what is happening in relationship these days. And talking about relationships, that's the next thing I want to bring in. Because, well, we have so much scorpionic energy currently present, it is important to stay grounded, because it is quite emotional. It is quite, it can be consuming, as I was saying. So having a certain kind of grounding, rootedness, a container in which you can feel safe to process all of that and to move through these 3 stages and feeling held by it. That is actually quite important these days. And our relationships are now being tested if they are at that level of depth, at that level of intimacy, at that level of connection, to actually provide that that healthy container, that safe container. Venus has just entered Capricorn, and that's what she's all about. She's testing our relationships now for commitment, for consistency, for stability, and also for clarity. She's going to ask us to become more clearer on the intentions of our relationships, and she's also going to bring it back to essence, which means Capricorn is that archetypal earthy quality that is densest earth, and there's nothing more dense, because it has been through a lot of pressure, than the diamond. And a diamond is crystal clear, and this crystal clarity is essence. So essence and clarity is 2 of the biggest topics that Venus is going to highlight for us over the next, well, how long is she going to stay there? Let me check. Yeah, she's actually gonna enter her retrograde phase before she's stepped out of Capricorn, and then she's going back into Capricorn. So she's going to stay there at least until January. So this is quite an important lesson for us all. To bring in clarity into our relationships, because where there's clarity, there is space for us to show up in our truth, in our authenticity. If there's something unspoken in the space, or we lose ourselves in things that are not essential, then we might drop out of that connection that is so important within those relational fields. So that is the medicine of Capricorn. And Capricorn also really calls us into responsibility, into maturity. It is actually emotional maturity. It is the inner parent rising. So within all of those turbulent emotional processes, we need to activate our own inner parent that is able to take care of the inner child, that is able to take care of our basic needs nurtured right now. And this is actually essence. Basic needs are essence. So yeah, what else is there to mention? My God, there's always so much in astrology. I can talk for hours about this, and it's probably gonna be way too much information. Yeah, but two aspects also that I want to speak to. I shared that with you in the beginning. Not just the sun is sitting in Scorpio right now, but also Mars and Mercury are sitting in Scorpio right now. So this scorpionic energy that I've just shared with you with those three stages, that transformational, emotional quality, yeah, it has a lot to do with it's very fierce. If you're really open to connect yourself with that volcanic power that sits in there, once you stop suppressing, let's say, your sex, once you stop suppressing your truth, once you stop suppressing your worth, once you stop suppressing, and the list goes on, there's a lot of power in that. There's a lot of power in that. And Scorpio teaches us also how power can be abused, how when we feel powerless, there are certain strategies of dealing with that, of suppressing others so that we feel powerful again, or completely losing ourselves in a way of powerlessness, and others are like, it's a bit of a power struggle that that Scorpion can also make us aware of. And this is basically what is happening in the world as well, where we as people, as individuals, have to remember our own power, but also the responsibility that comes with it, and stay with ourselves when it comes to that power, and not misusing our own power by manipulating others or wanting to convert others into a truth that is your truth, but might not be the truth of others, and all of that. So the responsibility that we have with our own magnetism. Magnetism. Yes, Scorpio is magnetism. I love that just pops up. Wonder why I have not shared about this yet, because it is why we are feeling drawn to certain people, to certain dynamics, to certain cultures. When we feel drawn to another person, let's say we feel attracted to another being, the first thing that comes to our minds is, oh, there's attraction. there's attraction. So it feels quite exciting, and maybe also a bit dangerous and alive, and yeah, it's an attraction. So it's probably sexual attraction, right? So my body wants to merge with that other person. And of course there can be sexual attraction, but what this magnetism, this scorpionic magnetism is actually about is, it is how we can also receive that poison and that medicine, because it is remembrance that we receive through another being that we feel attracted to, and that other being is mirroring to us that part that we have suppressed, that part or that shadow or whatever it is, that we need to acknowledge and see in ourselves is being mirrored to us. So that is also why scorpionic energy has a lot to do with attraction, magnetism, sexuality. It's also part of alchemy. So why am I saying this right now? Trying to bring it back to essence. Please bear with me. Yeah, I was talking about misuse of power. So we are having Mars and Mercury also sitting in Scorpio right now. Mercury is basically the archetype of, let me just rearrange my setting. It's the archetype, it's the messenger of the gods. It's the archetype of communication, of the power of the word. It's how we receive information. It's also how we process information. It's how we share information. And when that archetype sits in Scorpio, when Mercury sits in Scorpio, we can look at how we might misuse the power of the word by certain stories and narratives that we share, that we tell ourselves, lies that we tell ourselves, that we tell others, manipulation that is happening through us and that is also happening within. It's all of those processes in how we are, in a way, misusing the power of the word, and how we, through that, also recreate certain scenarios and stories that are being played out in reality on a collective level. But it also shows us how we suppress. So you either misuse the power, you're aware of your power, but somehow your intentions aren't pure because it comes from a place of shadow. It comes from a place of, if I don't get them to do something for me, then yeah, it comes from a place of fear, basically. And then there's the other side of the coin where you stay silent, where you are afraid of the power of your word. You're afraid of your voice. You're afraid of sharing your voice. You're afraid of sharing your truth. You're afraid of speaking up. You're afraid of your own power. And maybe that comes from an inclination where you actually have misused your power, and you know what can happen if that happens. So in this incarnation, you're facing the struggle of speaking up and the fear around that. What happens when you speak up? Because either you have misused that power, or you've been burned at the stake for speaking up and all of that. So these things are highly present right now. And it's not just being shown to us by world leaders, governments, and everything that we are projecting onto that they are in power. It's like as if they are gods. It's like what I've said in the beginning. They and us is an illusion, because we are just as in power as we project them onto them. So yeah, it is again about remembrance through throat chakra, through dealing with your throat chakra, through facing whatever wounds that are there, whatever fears that are there, whatever emotions that are there, whatever stories that are there that are not serving us anymore and that have to die. This is what Mercury in Scorpio is about. Check in with yourself, how that lands for you. And yeah, at last, Mars in Scorpio. Mars sits also there, and it's basically providing us with, well, Scorpio has a lot to do with reflection and with inner processes, inner process work and feeling and all of that. But Mars is acting. Mars is having the drive to make decisions. And when Mars sits in Scorpio, he's able to step out of that job, step out of that relationship. He's able to enter the arena courageously of either letting something die and letting something go, or letting a certain fear die and entering that relationship that can serve you tremendously in healing, and becoming actually more intimate with a person, and you have been avoidant of that. So the decision is to let the resistance die. Whatever it is, we are really able to not just reflect. It is a time to act. It is a time to make certain steps that support us in this transformational journey. Yeah. Breathe. So of course there's much more to share, but I feel I'm gonna leave it at that now. And yeah, if this has served you in any way, I'd love to hear some feedback. If you have questions, please feel free to ask, and yeah, I'd love to do this more often. Really grateful that I can share that wisdom with you all, and yeah, take your time to let it sink in and reach out to me if there's anything that I can support you with. And of course, I'm still offering readings to dive into the more individual processes and journeys that every one of us, with their unique birth chart, with their unique imprint, is on. Okay. All right. Then I'm wishing you lots of trust. Have trust. And remember, what you feel, you heal, and what you resist persists. Much love.